Attitudes to hernia belts. How was their usefulness perceived by the medical community of the 19th century? Part 1. (1843). Taken from a Treatise on Ruptures by Sir William Lawrence, 1783 to 1867, Fellow of the Royal Society, President of the Royal College of Surgeons of London, and Sergeant Surgeon to the Queen. Chapter 6. The Radical Cure of Ruptures. Pages 104 to 106. Dangers of such operations. The insufficiency of the surgical methods is tacitly acknowledged by the recommendation of wearing a bandage for some time afterwards. We find that the hernia often appeared again in those who had undergone the operation, and we know that a renewal of the protrusion is so frequent after the ordinary operation for incarcerated hernia, that the use of a truss is universally adopted as a means of prevention. Since then, the cause of the complaint, the enlarged slate of the tendinous opening, is not removed by the processes adopted for a radical cure. Since a recurrence of the disorder is not prevented, we may assert without hesitation that these operations do not afford any greater chance of complete relief than the employment of the truss. Here we come to an important distinction between the two means. The latter is attended with no danger. It causes at most only inconvenience, which diminishes daily and soon entirely ceases, while the former is highly dangerous and has proved fatal in many instances. The result of our experience on this subject is contrary to what might have been expected. An operation, not considerable in itself, performed on a perfectly healthy subject, would seem at first view to carry with it but little risk. Let it be remembered that the cavity of the peritoneum is laid open, and that the consequences of such an exposure are hazardous under any circumstances. We find from experience that the operation is at least as dangerous as that for strangulated hernia. Arnaud has recorded 2 cases of simple epiplocele, where the omentum could not be kept up, and the patients were thereby exposed to such inconvenience as induced them to seek relief from the operation. They both died. Sharp witnessed a similar termination in 2 or 3 patients who were strong and healthy before the operation. Acrel lost a patient in the same way. The experience of Petit is still more decisive on the same point. The very candid manner in which he states the unfortunate termination of his operations is so honorable to him that the reader will be pleased to read it in his own words. The extract will convey an important lesson. Nothing can justify us in operating on a hernia but the strangulated condition of its contents. The following observations have made too strong an impression on my mind to admit of my advising or practicing this measure as the ancients did, merely with the view of procuring a radical cure. I recollect with feelings of painful regret that I have twice operated under these circumstances, and have seen the same practice followed 3 times by my colleagues, without reckoning several narratives which others have given to me of their experience. The first operation was performed on a young man of 25. No precaution likely to ensure success was neglected, and the subsequent treatment appears to have been, in every respect, judicious. The patient died on the 6th day. Inflammation had spread over the whole peritoneum, and its marks were particularly conspicuous on the stomach, intestines, and omentum. In a woman of the age of 40, with an enteroepiplocele of the size of a fist, very alarming symptoms followed the operation, and life was despaired of on the 5th day. She, however, afterward recovered. The 3rd operation was performed in the presence of Petit. Its execution and the subsequent treatment were conducted, according to his representation, with all possible skill. Here death took place on the 10th day, from peritoneal inflammation. The subject of an incarcerated rupture submits to an operation in order to save his life. But he whose hernia is reducible endangers his life to get rid of an inconvenience, and the operation affords no greater prospect of entire recovery than he had without it. For, after he has undergone an operation at the hazard of life, the complaint may return, and the only protection against relapse is to wear a truss. All these considerations apply with the greater force in the present day, since the improvements in the construction of trusses have increased their efficacy and diminished the unpleasant effects of their application, so that they afford, with little inconvenience to the patient, not indeed a complete but a great protection from the suffering and danger attendant on ruptures. End of Part 1.